Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Igcse Biology Help. In today's video, I'm going to be solving the May-June 2022 Variant 2 Paper 2 exam. This is the latest exam and this was 3 days ago, the exam. It was on the 10th of June. So this paper, of course, is not that great of a quality. There is, of course, better quality because this is not the official paper. So the official paper or the official PDF will actually be released later. So please excuse the bad quality. Now let's start solving. All living organisms release energy. What is the name of this characteristic? Now we know that the releasing of energy is done by respiration, which is the breakdown of nutrient molecules. So our answer will be C for this question. Number 2, which diagram shows a flower from a monocotyledon? Now, we know monocotyledons are the plants that have narrow leaves and they also have parallel veins. That means the veins are not joined together or they're not like that. They're basically like that, something like that. So, of course, all the leaves have parallel veins over here, as we can see. They all have parallel veins, but they don't have narrow leaves, as I said. So this is the only plant that has narrow leaves. So we're going to be choosing D. 3. The diagram shows a cross-section through two guard cells of a leaf, which labeled structures would also be found in an animal cell. Now we know that animal cells don't have chloroplast and they don't have cell wall. So we won't be choosing Y because this is the chloroplast, and Z, this is the cell wall. So we won't be choosing that. We're going to be choosing between W and X. W is actually the nucleus and X is actually the cell membrane and not the cell wall. The cell wall is Z over here. So the outer part is all the cell wall and the inner part is actually the cell membrane. So our answer will be A. Number 4, the table shows some structures found in the human body. Which row shows the correct level of organization from the simplest structure to the most complex? Now over here we know that the simple structures will be, of course, a cell, not a heart muscle, because this is an organ and this is not the most simple structures found. So we're going to be choosing between A and C. Now A says red blood cell, heart muscle, and circulatory system. Now we're going to be choosing the heart. Of course, this is going to be an organ. The heart muscle is going to be a tissue. So the heart muscle is supposed to go here before the heart, because of course the heart is an organ and the heart muscle, as we know, the muscles are tissues. So we're going to be choosing C because of that. Number 5, by which process does oxygen move from a region of higher concentration in the alveoli to a region of lower concentration in the blood? Now over here we know that any gases, as I explained, can move by diffusion. So this is going to be C. Number 6, the diagram shows a section through the mesophyll cell of a leaf. Which part is partially permeable? Now we know that the cell membrane is partially permeable, so we're going to be choosing the letter that indicates the cell membrane, and this is actually going to be B. Now A is actually indicating the cell wall, which is fully permeable, so we won't be choosing A for that reason. What are the smaller basic units of starch and glycogen molecules? Now we know that starch and glycogen are actually made of glucose. Starch is the storage unit of plants and glycogen is for the humans. So they're both going to be glucose. So our answer will be D. Number 8, a chromosome was analyzed to have 6,125 pairs of bases. So over here, pairs means we're going to be multiplying this number, 6,125, times 2 because they said pairs. So the total is going to be 12,225. So this is the new number that we have got. The type of each base was identified and 2,345 of the bases were G. So over here, G is 2,345. Now C is also going to be 2,345. This is because C and G actually bind together and they both have to be the same amount in order to successfully bind together. So we're going to be minusing 12,225 minus this number, 2,345, plus 2,345 in order to get the A and T amount. So in the end, we're going to be dividing to get the T alone. Now this number is going to be 7,560. Now this number, we're going to be dividing it by 2 in order to get the T base alone, because this 7556 is actually the A plus T together. So we're going to be dividing it by 2 in order to get the T alone. So this number is going to be 3780, which is actually option B. Number 10, which statement describes the effect of temperature on enzymes? Now we know in enzymes, whenever the temperature is increased beyond the optimum, it's going to denature the enzymes, meaning that the active site shape is going to be changing, so the substrate is no longer going to fit into the active site. So that is going to leave the enzyme no longer able to catalyze any more reactions. So A actually describes the situation that I have just explained very accurately. High temperature denatures enzymes, making it difficult for the substrate molecules to fit into the active site. So this is going to be our answer. Number 11, the statements describe some of the events that occur in a plant after light energy is absorbed by chlorophyll. In which order do these events occur? Now we know that after light energy is absorbed, it's going to be chemical energy because that is one of the roles of chlorophyll. So we're going to be starting off with 1 and not 4, so we're going to be choosing between A and D. Now, number 4 says glucose is produced. Now this is a result of the chemical energy that is used in the photosynthesis process. Now, number 2 says converted to sucrose through translocation, and number 3 says starch is stored in the roots or seeds. Now, of course, we're going to be starting off with 2. This is because translocation usually transports like glucose and sucrose to the roots and seeds, which is the sink, so they can provide energy, so they can grow or use it for utilization and respiration or stuff like that. So first the transportation has to take place and then the growth of the seeds. So we're going to be going from 1 to 4 to 2 and then 3, which is exactly option D. 12. A deficiency in magnesium ions can cause plant leaves to become yellow between the leaf veins. What is the reason for this? Now we know that, of course, there's no increased chlorophyll production. We know that magnesium is going to be used in the chlorophyll, and we know that nitrate is going to be used in amino acids. So we're going to be choosing an answer where there is reduced chlorophyll because there is reduced magnesium. So decreased protein, this is not going to even be relevant to this question because, as I said, this is the nitrate and not the magnesium. Now, A says increased chlorophyll production. Now, this is incorrect because there is less magnesium, a deficiency of magnesium. So it's going to be C, actually. 13. The table shows some different components in a balanced diet. Which row correctly matches the components to reasons why they are needed? Now, we know that water is used for transportation, and fats, it's used for isolation and temperature regulation. So also vitamin D is used for bones and it's used for teeth growth. So we're going to be choosing B. Now, which process involves the removal of material from the rectum? Now we know this is removal of material. This is the egestion. So this is going to be A. 15. The diagram shows a cross-section of part of a plant. Which part of the plant is shown and what is the tissue labeled H? Now over here I have got a picture of the stem, root, and leaf, and I've got also the position of the phloem and xylem in each of them. Now over here we can see that this is actually resembling the root, so we're going to be actually choosing between A or B right now. So this is incorrect. Now, of course, we know that tissue H is going to resemble the phloem, as we can see in this image. This is the phloem, and the X-like part is the xylem. So our answer is going to be A for this question. 16. The apparatus shown can be used to investigate the effect of temperature and humidity on the rate of transpiration. Which set of conditions would give the highest rate of transpiration and the greatest decrease in mass? Now, if there is a high transpiration rate, then there will be automatically a great decrease in the mass because the transpiration is the loss of water vapor. So, of course, we know that transpiration is the highest in high temperatures and low humidity because high humidity will decrease the transpiration. So, it's going to be D because humidity when it's low, it's going to decrease the transpiration, as I said, and temperature when it's hot, it's going to actually speed up the enzyme's action. So 16 is going to be D. Number 17, people are sometimes born with a hole in the heart. This is caused by a gap in the septum, as shown. If the gap in the septum is not repaired, it causes the person to become breathless more quickly. What is a possible explanation for this? Now, over here, I've written that the left ventricle has the oxygenated blood and the right ventricle has the deoxygenated blood. The left ventricle actually has the pulmonary vein pouring blood into this side of the heart, the left chamber, and the right chamber has the vena cava, which is a vein which has deoxygenated blood pouring into this chamber of the heart. So let's read the options. Deoxygenated blood in the left atrium mixes with deoxygenated blood from the right atrium. Now, this is incorrect because we know that in the left atrium or the left chamber of the heart, there is oxygenated blood actually, so this is incorrect. Also, we know that the septum has the function of separating oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood, so that's why they have written mixes with. So B says deoxygenated blood in the right atrium mixes with the oxygenated blood from the left atrium. Now we know that the blood is actually going to be oxygenated and left ventricle, not the right atrium or the left atrium. So this is incorrect. C says oxygenated blood in the left ventricle mixes with the deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle. Now this is correct, and this D option is incorrect. So these answers aren't correct fully. They're just maybe solved by a student or a teacher, so we don't know. This is the correct answer over here. Oxygenated blood in the left ventricle mixes with the deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle. Because as I said here, the right has the deoxygenated and the left has the oxygenated, and they are in the ventricles, not in the atrium. 18. The flow diagram shows stages in blood clotting. What is component X? Now, component X is converted to component Y, and this is components of blood involved in clotting circulate the body. Blood vessels wall are damaged. So we know that in this process, the soluble fibrinogen is converted to insoluble fibrin. So actually, component X is going to be fibrinogen. 19. What is an example of passive immunity? A says immunity against influenza after an individual has been infected with the influenza virus. Now, this is actually active immunity and not passive, so we're not going to be choosing A. B says the formation of memory cells in response to chloria infection. This is going to be an active immunity. C says giving chickenpox antibodies to people at risk of developing a severe infection. Now, this is correct because we know that antibodies are used in the passive immunity and not in the active immunity. So this is going to be our correct. 20. What happens at the start of inspiration? Now we know in inspiration there is diaphragm contraction, there is volume of the thorax, it's going to increase, the external intercostal muscles are going to contract, and finally the internal intercostal muscles are going to relax. So our answer is going to be C because this is just what I have said. External intercostal muscles are contracting, diaphragm is contracting, volume is increasing, and the internal intercostal is relaxing. 21. Germinating seeds respire aerobically to release energy that can be used for growth. The balanced equation for aerobic respiration in seeds can be represented as shown. Which row gives the balanced equation for aerobic respiration in seeds? Now we know in aerobic respiration there is some sort of oxygen usage, so we're going to be choosing between B and C here. Now B says there is glucose, this is going to be glucose, and oxygen, and this is going to give us carbon dioxide and water. Now this is correct, so we're going to be choosing B. Now why not C? C is saying this is going to be using carbon dioxide. Now this is incorrect. This is actually in photosynthesis. We're going to be using carbon dioxide in photosynthesis and not in respiration. Anyways, R is also incorrect because how are you going to be using carbon dioxide and oxygen at the same time? So that's why the answer is going to be B. 22. During vigorous exercise, lactic acid builds up in the muscles, leading to an oxygen debt. Which statement describes a stage in the removal of oxygen debt during recovery? Now let's read the options. A says anaerobic respiration breaks down lactic acid in the muscle. Now this is incorrect because it's actually broken down in the liver. So we're not going to be choosing A or B because they said in the muscles. Now C says anaerobic respiration breaks down lactic acid in the liver. Now this is incorrect because it's actually aerobic respiration and not anaerobic respiration. So D. 23. The table shows the concentration of sodium ions in blood plasma in the glomerular filtrate, the liquid that passes through the glomerulus, and in urine. What is the percentage concentration of sodium ions reabsorbed in the kidney tubules? Now over here we can see that in the blood plasma it was 141, and then in the glomerular filtrate it became 141, and in the urine it was 127. So this is actually a percentage decrease question, so we're going to calculate the percentage decrease over here. Now 141 was the 100%. How much is the 127? Now we're going to be multiplying 127 times 100 and dividing over 141. You can of course do this question with your own method, but I use this method to calculate the percentage decrease and percentage increase. This is going to give us 90%, 0.07. We're going to be minusing 90%, 0.7 to 100 to get the percentage decrease overall. So this is going to be 9.93. So this is exactly B option. 24. Which effects does adrenaline have on the blood glucose and pulse rate? Of course, they both increase, so our answer is going to be B. 25. The concentration of glucose in the blood is controlled by negative feedback. When blood glucose concentration falls too low, the 1 releases the hormone 2. This hormone causes cells to break down 3 to glucose, which is released into the blood. Which words correctly complete gaps 1, 2, and 3? Now we know when it falls too low, the pancreas will release glucagon, so we're going to be choosing actually between C and D, not A and B, because liver doesn't secrete the hormone. So it's going to be the hormone glucagon. And number 3 will be this hormone causes cells to break down glycogen to glucose. So it's actually going to be glycogen in 3. So let's check if it's going to be C or D. Pancreas, glucagon, and glycogen. So C is going to be the correct answer. Now, of course, 3 is not going to be glucagon, or 2 is not going to be glycogen. It's actually the opposite. 26. A young maize seedling is grown from a seed. The seedling is placed on its side and left in the room with light source for several days. What will happen to the young shoot? Now we know that oxygen will actually accumulate in the dark areas, so it's going to accumulate in the areas that I have shaded over here, and over here. Now let's read the options. What will happen to the young shoot? A. Oxygen becomes concentrated in the lower part of the shoot and the shoot grows towards the light. Now this is actually correct because, as I said, it's going to actually be more concentrated in the lower areas because, as I said, oxygen accumulates in the shady areas. So this part is going to grow like that, like that, like that, and it's going to cause the leaf to bend upwards into the direction of light. So A is going to be correct. 27. What is an adaptive feature of sperm? Now we know that sperm has flagella, and it also has enzymes in the acrosome to dissolve the jelly coat in the egg cells. So let's read the options. Large stores of energy. Well, this is actually present in both of the egg cells and the sperm, so this is not a special adaptive feature of the sperm. Now B says enzymes in the acrosome. Now this is correct because this is something that is special or exclusive to the sperm cells, so B is going to be the answer. Jelly coating that changes after fertilization. Of course, this is an egg cell feature and not a sperm cell. Diploid nucleus. This is actually incorrect. 28. The list contains statements about sexual and asexual reproduction in plants. Which statements describe asexual reproduction in plants? Now we know that it doesn't promote genetic variation. Asexual is actually depending on mitosis, which is going to produce genetically identical cells, so this is incorrect. It requires self-pollination. Now no, this doesn't require self-pollination. It can be done by any way, cross-pollination or self-pollination. It requires meiosis. Well, this is incorrect. This is actually for the sexual reproduction. So 4, it produces offspring that are identical to the parent. This is correct because it is by mitosis, and mitosis, as I said, produces genetically identical. So this is correct. 5, it allows the population to increase rapidly. This is correct because mitosis is actually a fast process, so it doesn't also require parents, and it can be done by one plant. So this is going to be C because 4 and 5. 29, graph shows the levels of two hormones during a 28-day menstrual cycle. Which hormones are represented by X and Y on the graph? Now we know that X is actually the estrogen because estrogen and LH is going to increase before the ovulation time, and it's clear that the ovulation over here was at around day 14. So it's going to decrease after ovulation because, as we know, estrogen is secreted by the ovum. So it's going to decrease after the ovum is burst. Now we know that the progesterone will rapidly increase to actually maintain, and it's going to repair the endometrium lining. So it's going to be C for our answer. Question number 30. Before meiosis takes place, a cell has 24 chromosomes. How many chromosomes will be found in each of the cells that are produced by meiosis? So we know that meiosis will actually have the number of chromosomes. So for example, if it was 12, it will be 6, for example. So we have to choose the number that is half of this one. So of course it's going to be 12. 31. When a horse with red hair, genotype HR breeds with a horse with white hair, genotype HW, the offspring have red and white hair, genotype HW. These horses are described as having roan-colored hair. This is an example of a codominance. When two horses with roan-colored hair are bred together, what's the chance of their offspring also having a roan-colored hair? Now let's do this cross together. It's going to be HR and HW, and we're going to be crossing that with HR and HW as well. So this is going to be HRW. So there is one roan-colored. HRW again, so this is another roan-colored, and then HW and HW. So we have a 50% chance of getting a wrong color and 25% chance of getting a white, and the other 25% for the red color. So this is going to be a 50% chance. 32. The diagram shows a hydrophyte. What is an adaptive feature of this hydrophyte? Now we know that over here, the hydrophytes are the plants that are placed in the water, or they live in the waters. So let's read the options. A says no stomata on the upper surface or the lower surface on the leaf. Now this is incorrect because we know that the hydrophytes have stomata on the upper surface only. So yes, there is actually stomata present. So this is incorrect. B says a network of large air spaces inside the leaves. Now this is correct because, as we know, that they have large air spaces to help for the plant to be able to float on the water, and it can help in buoyancy. So this is going to be the correct option. 33. Sickle cell anemia is a genetic disorder which results in severe illness in homozygous individuals. In some human populations, being heterozygous can be beneficial. What can be the reason for this? Now let's read the options. A says heterozygous individuals are not affected by the disorder. Now this is incorrect. They are actually affected by the disorder. They're talking about malaria over here. Malaria is the disease that is transmitted by some insects. So no, they are actually affected. B says heterozygous individuals are more resistant to malaria. Now this is correct because they have half of their blood having sickle cell anemia, and they have the other half of their blood it's normal. So this can provide them with more resistance to the malaria disease. So this is actually correct. 34. Which statement about selective breeding is correct? A says it does not involve humans. This is incorrect. It involves a struggle for survival. This is incorrect. C, it always involves only one parent. Now it doesn't always involve one parent. It can sometimes involve some two parents because they're going to have the the features that it's needed or the desired features. So no, it doesn't always only require one parent. So D is going to be our answer because it involves parents that process desirable features. As I explained now, they both have to have the desirable features so they can bring an offspring with the desirable feature as well. 35, the diagram shows part of the carbon cycle. Which process is shown by the arrows X? Now X is actually releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere too. So this is actually respiration, because this is the only process over here that can release carbon dioxide from both the producers and consumers, and also the decomposers are releasing. So this is going to be respiration. 36, a herd of red deer live in a forest that contains snakes and a large variety of birds. Which group of organisms is an example of a population? Now we know that population is actually the group of organisms living in the same area, as we know in the definition. So we're going to be choosing B because they're all same species over here. Now this is all like very wide or general like specifications of the animal, but over here it's a specific animal. They said it's red deer, so this is a specific. Over here it's just general, like all animals, like there is like a very wide variety of animals. All organisms, of course there is a very wide range of organisms and also plants. 37, with which kingdoms do bacteria share the same genetic code? Now we know that bacteria actually have universal genetic code, which means all their genetic code can be understood by all the animals and can be fully processed as well, not only understood by all animals. So we're going to be choosing an option where there is the most animals. This is actually A, because there are universal sharing codes, so they can share it with any animal and they can be understood by any other animal. So 38, which process makes use of genetically engineered organism? Now we know that this is the process of genetic engineering, where they will maybe genetically modify an animal to or an organism to produce something that specific something. So of course we know the example of the bacteria to produce insulin, so this is going to be our answer. 39, what is a reason for conserving plant species? Now we know that there is several reasons to conserve the plant species, maybe for tourism, maybe for medicine use, maybe for other reasons. So also maybe to prevent extinction and provide more genetic variation in the genetic pool. So there is many reasons actually. So we're going to be choosing one of the reasons that we took in our syllabus, which is to obtain drugs for medicinal use. 40, the food web shows the feeding relationships in a woodland. If all the chaffinches in the food web die, which effect would this have? Now, they're talking about this animal. So this animal is going to be wiped off this food chain, which means there will be more caterpillars. So if there is more caterpillars, it's going to increase it's damage done to the trees. So they're going to be eating more trees, which means more trees are going to get damaged or get eaten. So this one will increase and this one will decrease basically. So of course B is not going to be the correct answer over here, as it was done, because the gray squirrels over here, they're not affected by this animal. So this is not the correct answer. A is going to be the correct answer, because as I explained right now. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and please leave a comment if you want me to solve something specific or a specific paper for you.